Fisherman and Fish channel, and boy am I excited to bring you this video today. We're going to be cooking sea bass that we caught offshore of Virginia Beach. Let's go ahead and get started. If you're just here for the recipes, I'll put a timestamp down below. You can jump through this all the way straight to the recipes.
For the rest of you, let's take a look at the wreck fishing that we did winter sea bass special permit season.
Hold them out, Bobby. Oh, this is the keeper, buddy. I can't see it. This is the keeper. Uh-oh.
So what's the problem? We have too many fish for the pool?
Yeah, big problem. We can't fit anymore. Yeah, boy, good times.
The first recipe that we're going to be cooking with this is actually the breading that we use on our jalapeno poppers. It's very crispy, it's a hearty breading, and it's a technical process that if you follow this through, you'll get amazing results. Think of the crispiness of a homemade jalapeno popper, but coated over fish. Golden, crispy, hearty, it's worth doing.
The first thing you're going to want to do is get all the moisture that you can out of that fish, and then select your favorite seasonings. We like to use simply salt, pepper, and garlic powder, and very light at that. Because this is fish we cleaned ourselves, you may find some pin bones, or in your cleaning you might miss something, so do final checks. You can run your hand along that fillet, feel that pin bone, and you won't end up feeding it to your guests. Just pull that sucker right out. This process is really simple if you stick to these steps, and essentially it's buttermilk flour, buttermilk panko, no substitutes, and take your time. Allow that fish to soak and get into all its crevices with that buttermilk, and when you take it over to the flour and start to do your dredging, let it sit for a bit, and that flour and that buttermilk will set. It's the same thing when you go back into the buttermilk. It absorbs into the flour and it sets. It gets darn near like concrete. Going back to the panko, completely bury it, and you'll see little bubbles form inside the buttermilk and little holes and gaps that'll form in your flour, your panko, and close those, because every hole in your batter is where the juice and the moisture will escape from that breading, and you don't want that. That affects the quality of your fillet at the end. You may even notice that we use a fork to lift out, and that helps to prevent puncturing holes into your breading layer. Also using wet hand, dry hand method. You can see my left hand there is the wet hand, and right hand is dry, and that helps with the handling and keeping the breading dry before you throw it into the fryer. When you pull it out, you'll set it down, and it's almost like it cures. That buttermilk attaches to the flour and the bread, and you end up with a much better crust if you allow it a little bit of time to cure. Again, take your time. This is a slow process, no reason to rush it. That's what they do in the restaurants. This ends up better than restaurants. My guests tell me that all the time. You'll want to fry this at around 360 to 370 degrees until it's golden in color. Then pull it out, place it on paper towel, and that's it. So easy to cook, and it's ready to serve. You'll also hear right at this point in the video the change in the oil, the sound in the oil. That's the moisture dropping out of the fish. That's literally the point when you know it's done, when the sound of the fry changes.
Okay, so I can't eat the carbs. I'm watching my carbs right now, and unlike the other recipe, this is a little bit carb-laden with the breading, so it's not for me, so I brought in a guest taster. I know how good this tastes. She's never had this before. That's hot, hot, hot. We're just waiting.
It's hot. It's delicious. I'm gonna taste some more.
There it is. Feedback is good.
Yummy.
Sea bass. And for our second recipe, it's going to be a pan fry with a cream sauce poured over top. Another great recipe, delicate, Very fresh tasting. It's got a classic lemony, fresh, light flavor.
I'll put all the ingredients down below, but this happens real quick, a matter of minutes. Fry the fish, make the sauce, pour it over, done. If you have a heavy saucepan, that's great. That helps with preventing burning of the cream and the butter or the vegetables sticking to the bottom when you're doing the sauteing. I use a heavy cast iron enamel saucepan. It's worth having in your kitchen.
If you like any of the tools, gear, or equipment that we use in this video, we'll put a link down below in the description where you can go to purchase it.
You'll notice that we also put a little bit of olive oil in with these onions and these shallots because that prevents the butter from burning. You can salt and pepper at this point, but you can leave some of the salt out, add it in later. That Dijon mustard and cream just tops that sauce off. When you add that final liquid, that wine, you're going to want to let that alcohol cook off. It takes the bitterness out of the wine and leaves behind the flavor that you'll recognize. Grab your lemon and some parsley, squeeze half the lemon into your sauce, cut up a little bit of the parsley, and your sauce is complete. You can let it simmer on a very, very low heat, which as you go over to fry the fish in the pan, it will thicken up to the desired thickness that you like. I actually was a little bit too watery for this dish. There's a couple of additional critical steps that I want to make mention of at this point. We use grapeseed oil because of the high smoke point, the very high temperatures that we'll be gaining on this gas stove. We like the BTUs that puts into it. And here we're seasoning the oil before we put the fish in with onions and garlic. That adds flavor to the dish that you don't get with just plain oil. Be careful not to burn your garlic. Garlic that's burned has a bitter flavor, and once it gets that tan color, it's done cooking and it has more of an almond sweet flavor. You also notice that we have a carbon steel skillet, a matte fur carbon steel skillet. Transfers heat very well in these high temperatures where we're going to be searing the outside of this fish while allowing the centers to be more juicy and tender, and you get that brown exterior. I also need to let you know that we saved those onions and garlic that we flavored the oil with in order to sprinkle those on top with some parsley, the finished dish. It's a nice way to kind of garnish, and you get the flavor from it in the finished dish. I actually don't know how well this is going to come out on your screen, but when you start to see the liquids come through the fish on the other side that you already cooked, that tells you that the fish is done. If you go much past that, your fish is going to get kind of tough and rubbery. You want it to be tender and juicy interior. Don't cook all the moisture out. So you save some of that parsley, lemon, garlic, and onions that we seasoned the oil with, and you put all that on top at the very end, and it just adds to the finale of how good this tastes. Sea bass is one of the tastiest fish that comes out of the ocean, and it's very plentiful and easy to catch.
It's actually not very well known, but Virginia has world-class fishing right there in the Chesapeake Bay and even just a few miles off the coast. There's a charter fleet that can get you out onto those wrecks if you know somebody with a boat, or even if you're coming down to the area to vacation. All of this phenomenal fishing, everything from tuna all the way down to wreckfish, is available right minutes off the Rudy Inlet in Virginia Beach. So light, no fishiness to it whatsoever. Sea bass. So YouTube says that this video is perfect for your viewing habits. This is my latest upload, and over here is a playlist you might just enjoy. I hope you liked it. If you did, please click like, subscribe, share, and come on back for more.